So, Honorable Kwech, you pointed out that the approval of the charges by the DPP.
Yes.
Of?
That's 3 members of parliament.
Wow. So that has been since posted by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions as fake.
It's not fake, it's coming.
It's fake, it's here.
I know, but it's coming.
Yeah. So how did you then establish that they are to be charged?
They will be charged.
Why then are you privy to such an information?
Why am I? I'm the chairman of Defense and Intelligence. I'm not just any other person.
You're not the chairman of jailer.
I'm not just any other person.
You are the chairman of Defense.
No, he's right about that. He's the chairman of Intelligence. So he has good intelligence.
ODPP is not oversighted by Kwech. It's oversighted by my committee.
Which is
jailer, Justice and Legal Affairs Committee.
Chaired by Honorable Murugara.
Yeah, chaired by Murugara.
So the question is then, before I come to you.
And from where I stand, there are no such kind of charges that have been approved. But it seems that such charges are actually politically instigated, and they are being cooked in a kitchen where Kwech is one of the cooks and chefs. And I can tell you,
Chief Chef,
you are bound to fail. And what you will see,
I have told
what you will see,
I have told
what you will see, what you will see.
Part of the
no. What you will see.
I'm with Kwech on this one.
What you will see.
I'm with Kwech on this one.
What you head of the
allow him to finish his
point. What you will see that even though the demonstrations and protests were done across the country, from Mombasa to Turkana, to Uasin Gishu to Sugoi, to Nakuru to Nyeri, even though the protestation was taken across the country, you will see from now what Kwech is cooking with his ilk. It is going to target 2 politicians or 2 MPs who come from Mount Kenya region.
Come on.
That is what you will see. But nevertheless, you asked a question about the issue of what the President Kenyatta talked about. And what Kenyatta said is that the young people should fight for their rights. Fighting for someone's right does not mean fighting a government. I don't think it means fighting a government. I do not think it even means going to the road to demonstrate. Fighting for your right means that you're standing your ground. And you know the rights are well enumerated in our constitution. But what I'm seeing is the kind of response that is coming from the government is a bit telling. Because when the government now responds so powerfully and so intensely on this issue of young people fighting for their rights, it means that the government is planning or has been denying these rights to the young people, and that's why they're being defensive. That's why they're saying that it's a wrong approach to tell people to fight for their rights. I mean, who shouldn't fight for their rights? Even you as Ayub, when you are employed by this institution, you fight for your rights in terms of your remuneration, in terms of service, isn't it? You can't see your organization now coming up front so intensely to say that you're doing a wrong thing, because they do not intend to deny you your rights anyway. The other issue, which I'm also finding very suspect, is publicly we are calling the young people who are asking the government to do the right thing, we are calling them children. And we keep saying that, and we are also very obsessed with the issue of discipline of these children. Are you getting? But in secret and in private, we are treating them like hardcore criminals. We are planning for them like hardcore criminals. And they are being abducted every other day.
And is Uhuru Kenyatta the right authority to advise on how to incorporate young people in government and give them the opportunities to prosper in life?
I mean, no, of course, Uhuru Kenyatta has his own flaws as well as a former president. There are many things that he also ought to have fixed that he didn't fix. But
how then do you respond to the appointment of Mudia Wari, 91-year-old veteran politician, to serve in the board that manages sports, art and youth activities in 2000? Well,
I don't think, by the way, and if you understand this issue, the issue of like issues of age and all that in this case might actually not be a problem. Remember in Malaysia, when the problem was, when the country was run down completely, they recalled back a former president who was there, who was almost 90 years old.
The case of Mahathir
just listen to what I'm saying. They recalled a former president who was very old to come and refix back the country and take the country back to the people because it had been riddled with corruption. And so what here is important, and even for the young people, by the way, is to ensure that we are fixing the policies, is to ensure that we are not stealing from the pot where we are putting all the resources, so that these resources can serve everyone equally. And that's why I said it will not matter the age of the president or the deputy president. It will not matter the tribe of the president or the deputy president. Those things will not matter so long as you fix the system. Are you getting? And the problem which I'm finding here is that we are calling these young people children in public, but in private we are planning for them and doing what we would call hardcore criminals activities on them. We are killing them in abductions because they have talked. And that is why I'm saying we are being very hypocritical as a government. Are you getting? We are being very arrogant, yeah? And that is wrong, because we need to look at these young people and what they are saying. And that's why I really back what Manduku is saying here. He's saying, if I were the president, it wouldn't bother me who said it. It wouldn't bother me when it was said. And it wouldn't even bother me who is saying that we need to look at the young people. For me, what the president needs to do and what the government needs to do is to fix the problems that are being enumerated, and much more by the young people. Okay. You see, the young people themselves are speaking, and so it doesn't even matter. Come on. It doesn't even matter who added the voice. What matters is, are the young people themselves speaking? Have they said exactly what they want to see? Have they given us direction on what we need to do? Are you getting the point again?
Yeah, the death of empathy that I see with my colleague here is one of the most important and telling signs of a culture about to fall into barbarism. Mr. Kenyatta is good and Mr. Ruto is bad. I mean, well, it's not fair for... I did not interrupt you. I did not interrupt you. Let me speak. So I think that we should not be in the books of George Orwell in 1984, where you have a 5-minute scream about one person and a complete silence about the other. First of all, I think Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta and Mr. Ruto were a pair. And in the first government that they were in, the responsibility falls squarely on Mr. Kenyatta, not Mr. Ruto. But what today is here is falls squarely on Mr. Ruto. And we can only judge Mr. Ruto today because Mr. Kenyatta has left office. On the question of whether moral platform is it that Mr. Kenyatta has zero moral authority to speak about anything in this country. He left Mr. Ruto a bankrupt country. He left his country with murderous police action in many places in this country. He left this country without breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You can remember the corruption of the state officers in Mr. Kenyatta's government. It was outrageous. And then when Mr. Ruto came into power, there was nothing for him there to do. Sometimes I feel very sorry for him. I really do. Because when he walked into that government, there was nothing absolutely in it. And he had left, Mr. Kenyatta had left a time bomb, which is exploding on Mr. Ruto up to today. Now, the problem with our president is that our president is not a broad-based thinker. He doesn't want to think with other people. He wants to think by himself. And he wants to make decisions by himself. You can tell by the cabinet that we have. The cabinet that we have, some of them used to work for me. And I know some of them. And I know the competency levels in there. Secondly, you can tell the way this public civil service is working. The civil service used to have at least a giant who can actually run the machinery. Now, what Mr. Ruto has done is has dwarfed everybody so that he can become the chief of state. And he can run every policy in this country. And when you concentrate power in your hands, that is when you fail. You remember Mr. Kibaki? Mr. Kibaki is probably was intellectual, probably one of the most, like me, one of the best trained economists in this country, political economists. And Mr. Kibaki gave people the room to go and run their ministries, to run their corporations, and not to have the shadow of the president next to him. And I was the chair of a parastatal once. And I know, we did our job, we reported to the head of the civil service, and of course Mr. Kwech will tell you the government runs like that. And we had a double-digit economy, and we had a country that was working. And at the end of the day, with all the troubles that we had, that coalition government had one of the best records in this country. Today, after the Jubilee 2 decades, a decade and a half of Mr. Kenyatta and Mr. Ruto, the entire country is fed up. And at the heartland of rebellion in this country is in Nandi County, not even in Kisumu. The leaders of the Genz were Kalenjin and Somalis and people from the constituency of this government. And we want to tell the president that, you know, the great Albert Einstein said the most important thing about a human being is the ability to change. When you see that your pathos or your ethos is not working, and the things that you're trying to do is not working, you shouldn't accept the cheerleading and the people saying continue in this wrong path. You should stop, take a break, and say this government of, what did he call it? The government of
broad-based government.
It's not a broad-based government. It's a government of tribal sentiment, by tribal sentiment, and for tribal sentiment. When the president says that he's bringing people into cabinet so that there's a first of Kenya, he's not bringing people who are progressive, who are adroit. He's bringing back the old billionaires who, when you went to parliament, you saw how much they were all worth. Each one of them is worth 5, 6, 7 billion shillings. What we want is a fresh breath and change in this country, and that change, I put it to you, Ayub, is going to come election day when the young people are going to topple this government.
Okay, and it's William Kabogo who was worth 3.1 billion. The others were by far less than what they had presented before the committee on appointments that was chaired by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Masika Wetangula. Also a member is here, Nelson Kwechu, chairs the Defense and Intelligence.
Oh, by the way, the intelligence thing, Kwechu is right. Yeah. On the intelligence thing, Kwechu is absolutely right. He's privy to a lot of information, and I know that as a governance expert.
Yes, please. You had a point. Before we move to the next topic on Rigathi Gachagua and his way forward.
Although on the issue of the young people are going to change the politics of 2027 and the politicians. Yeah, the only thing I would want to caution is that something very sinister is happening in this nation. As we are talking now, even though the issue of registration of the young people is a right in the Constitution, continuous registration of the young people, I would want to tell Kenyans that for the last 2 years, no one in this country has been registered as a voter.
Yeah, it's quite
getting.
Yeah.
And you can clearly tell there's a reason why they are being disenfranchised. And so young people are out there and they're hoping to make a difference. But someone on this other side is sitting on the register.
Coach can reply to that.
Who is that person sitting on the register?
You think he also has intelligence on this? Now I can give Kenyans the truth.
Who is sitting on the register?
Of course, the government has ensured that IBC is not registering. Number one, I want to fault IBC because IBC themselves are saying that they cannot register if they don't have commissioners. I disagree with them because, of course, they say they need commissioners to come and gazette the staff to register. But remember, the staff, the returning officers who are gazetted to register in the last 5 years were not degazetted at the time when the elections were done. Number two, the issue that we don't have commissioners is entirely a government issue. It's a government that has incapacitated this and has ensured that this whole system is disenfranchised. And that is why this issue is something that we are going to take on. So I want to ask my brother, we want you to...
You're eating into my turn and Kwechu's turn.
We want you to join. We want you to join. We want you to join. If you truly think that the young people are going to have a difference in this election...
They will have a difference. They will make a difference. I absolutely believe that.
Then we must then also be practical. We cannot say that they will make a difference and they are not being registered.